Om Tat Sat. Good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and greetings to those of you who are watching online. We are resuming with the 6th volume of the Art Gallery of Memories by D.V. Gundappa. Initially, when I started out this part of the lectures, I thought I would complete the 6th volume, but I don't think I'll be able to do that because I want to do justice to all the characters, so I may not be able to complete the 6th volume. It will continue in the next set of lectures in August. So yesterday we saw some of the remarkable qualities of V.S. Srinivasa Sastri's eloquence and oratory in speech, and as usual DVG has given us the 4 most important points of Srinivasa Sastri's speech. He also mentions how there used to be a lot of idiomatic expressions in Sastri's speech. There is an interesting episode that involves Srinivasa Sastri as well as the history of the freedom movement. So sometime in 1929, the government had constituted an advisory committee. At that point of time, Mirza Ismail was the Diwan of Mysore. And this committee was created for offering suggestions to improve the political system. So K.R. Srinivasa Iyengar, who was a councillor at one point, he was the chair of the committee. And D.V. Gundappa wrote a piece that objected to the report prepared by the committee. So he had written in his article that the current government should give a statement that its main focus would be to form a responsible government for the country. Then there must be incremental development from year to year for about 20 years, and over time there will be a fully functional responsible government. This was D.V. Gundappa's focus. Like he was very much interested in the princely states, he was an advocate of a responsible government, where there is an independent charge given to the Indians. Now, Mirza Ismail did not have any faith in this form of government, and therefore when DVG wrote this strong note against the report of the committee, people said nobody would bother about it because the main person, the Diwan of the state, is not in agreement with this idea. DVG was very happy to let it go and continue with his work, but a few of his friends said that, we should not leave out the matter. This should be brought to the notice of Gandhi. And one of the main people in this pushing DVG was Sampige Venkatapatayya. So he and a few other people came up with this plan, and he had a friend whose name DVG has not written. He has just put a dash there. He's a person who used to be pretty close to Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. So at some point of time, Mirza Ismail was traveling to Delhi. It was known that Gandhi also will be in Delhi at the same time. So the idea was DVG had to shrink his article, whatever he had written, in about 2 pages. He has to give the gist of his objection to the report. And this person, who was close to Vallabhbhai Patel, he would hand over this letter to Mahadev Desai, who was Mahatma Gandhi's secretary. And he will mention to Mahadev Desai the importance of this. Mahadev Desai will then apprise Gandhi about this, and then Gandhi will tell Mirza Ismail when he meets him in Delhi. So this was all the big plan that was done. So then Gandhi went Delhi at whatever as planned. But it so happened the day before Gandhi arrived in Delhi, Mirza Ismail had to leave. And he would not. So then there was a idea that, okay, Gandhi is going to Bombay after that, and then Mirza Ismail also might go to Bombay, and if they are in the same city, definitely Mirza Ismail will meet Gandhi. But that also did not happen, because Mirza then travelled to Voltaire, that is Visakhapatnam, and then he went to Chennai, and then Madras at that time, and then he came back to Bengaluru. During this time when all this was going on, when Mirza had visited Madras, it was his usual habit to meet some of his friends and acquaintances, and when he met all these people, he has, as a matter of discussion, mentioned about this machinations that are happening, and complained about D.V. Gundappa to three people: P.S. Shivaswamy Sastri, V.S. Srinivasa Sastri, and T.R. Venkatarama Sastri. All these three are very close friends of Vishweshwaraya, of D.V. Gundappa. So then all of them wrote letters to him. And DVG mentions what are the letters. So Shivaswamy Iyer wrote the letter: Mirza Ismail and you seem to be at loggerheads with each other. He is a nice person. Why should you fight with him? This was the note that Shivaswamy Iyer has written. Srinivasa Sastri says, there is an accusation of you having switched sides from the Liberal Party to the Congress. Is this true? You have given up association with the friendly party and joined hands with the opposition. Is this real? Then Venkatarama Sastri says, even if there are difference of views in political matters, is it necessary to hamper our personal relationship by abandoning old friendships? Then D.V. Gundappa writes a detailed reply to each of them, saying that how can you say that Mirza Ismail and me are in the same league? What kind of camaraderie do we share? Are we from the same town? Are we from the same village? He is sitting on top of Ambari in an elephant. I am standing on the ground without chappals. That is the difference between us. I am a common man. He is an aristocrat. He is the ruler of the state. I am a poor journalist. What kind of connection can be there between two of us? So I had some work with him, so I have associated with him. He thought I might be useful for his political agenda, so he has taken my services. So it is, just a relationship based on political convenience. It is a acquaintance. It is not even a friendship. Even in the case of a husband and wife, when they get married, they will be all very happy and pleasurable. Over a period of time, they will know all the weaknesses of the other person. So it is something not surprising that we have drifted apart. Then Shivaswamy Iyer was a little disappointed with DVG's reply, but he didn't take it up again with him. And Venkatarama Sastri was not convinced. He was, critical of DVG. He wrote a letter criticizing him. But what was Srinivasa Sastri's reaction? And DVG says, that is the only thing relevant here, so I am going to bring this up. Sastri wrote back to DVG saying, yes, I have also had similar experiences. During the time there was a trouble in Punjab, people were complaining about me to the Viceroy and to his ministers, and he gave the names of few people and he said, those are the people who benefited. But what can we do? Our conscience is our emperor. We should never cheat this inner lord within us. And if he causes us any harm, then the pain will be excruciating. So we have to be true to our conscience. At the same time, you should not rupture a friendship. And it is very important in the political sphere not to burn the bridges. You must maintain the peace when it comes to the political arena. So we should always retain relationships. We can be careful, we can be keeping a safe distance, but we should not burn the bridges. In 1928, what happened was, just before that, also this kind of gives a backdrop. I had mentioned to it when I was talking about Mirza Ismail in the 4th volume, but just let me reiterate a little bit. So there was a major riot, Hindu-Muslim riot in 1928, which is called the Sultanpet Ganapati Galabhe, or the Ganapati riots, and the details of which we have already seen earlier, but it's not really important here. But basically what happened was there were two major factions. There was something called the Praja Paksha, the people's group, and the Sarakara Paksha, the government group. And Mirza Ismail thought that DVG belonged to the Praja Paksha, which is the Hindu unit. The other was considered the Muslim unit. So therefore it led to some bitterness between them, and eventually it led to some estrangement. Navaratna Ramarao, who was a mutual friend, who was very close friends with Gundappa, is also very good friends with people like Rajagopalachari and Mirza Ismail. One day told DVG, sir, you let your politics remain as it is. That is different. But Mirza has so much of affection for you. Recently, he came back from a trip from Bombay. He has brought some dolls and toys for your children. At least accept this from him. But DVG was very stubborn. He said, please forgive me, it is not possible. Now somehow Srinivasa Sastri has heard about this obstinacy of D.V. Gundappa. Through one of them, they have told Srinivasa Sastri. And like I told you, Srinivasa Sastri was 18 years his senior and almost like a elder brother or uncle or father to DVG. In that kind, he gave that kind of respect to Srinivasa Sastri. Then the following summer, what happened was Srinivasa Sastri, as usual, came to stay in Bangalore for some time. He was staying in a house called Seetalaya on BP Wadia Road. And it so happened that that year they were celebrating Srinivasa Sastri's 61st birthday. And some of his friends had organized a kind of birthday party. Now, all the friends were called, and there was a chapra, like a temporary pandal, which was put in front of the house. And Mirza Ismail also was invited. He was the Diwan at that time. So he said, yes, he will also definitely attend the event. Now, DVG thought, if I am going to stay in the pandal outside, then definitely I'll have to come face to face with Mirza Ismail. He has already promised that he will come for this event. So what to do? I had to avoid him. So what he does is he goes into the innermost quarters of the house, into the kitchen, and he's sitting and chatting with Srinivasa Sastri's family. So his wife and other people, he is sitting and chatting in the kitchen. So Mirza Ismail won't come into the kitchen, right? So DVG thought he's very safe. Then, of course, Mirza came inside and everybody welcomed him, and Shastri also welcomed. They were all sitting and under the chapra outside and engaged in some conversation. Amidst this conversation, suddenly Shastri called out, "Gundappa, come here, come quickly, come here." And friends rushed and rushed to him and this practically held him by his hands and pulled him to the chapra. And they were dragging him to the front, and all of them were having a hearty laugh. Mirza Ismail was laughing, Srinivasa Sastri was laughing, and finally we are brought face to face with each other. And DVG writes, when we are brought face to face with one another, how can our past bitterness be there? Completely it disappeared. We shook hands and we behaved as if there was no misunderstanding between us. So if because of some small misunderstanding, you have had certain ideas about somebody and you have kept them away, when you actually see them in flesh and blood, it is very difficult to continue holding on to that enmity or that hatred. Always it is easier to hate some abstract thing rather than somebody in flesh and blood. Because when somebody is in front of you, you may get angry, you may have a quarrel, but you cannot continue that hatred when somebody is in front of you. So they shook hands and everything. However, it looked as if Srinivasa Sastri was not fully convinced that they got back to their old state of friendship. So then again during that night in the dinner, he scolded DVG and he said, what the hell is wrong with you? And there were other friends also like K.V. Krishnaswamy Iyer and Govinda Raghava Iyer and all that. When Srinivasa Sastri gave a nice mouthful, blasted DVG, what is wrong with you, and so on. But the story did not end there. The following day, there was a grand feast organized for V.S. Srinivasa Sastri in the Century Club. And Sastri spoke on that occasion, so he was asked to say a few words without mentioning DVG or Mirza Ismail or anything. He generally gave a speech saying that friendship is important. It is more essential than our individual opinions. It is our duty at times to change our opinions. After all, an opinion is a matter of the intellect, and so on and so forth. He talks about friendship. We have become very political in our country today. Our rage and anger in this area is bearing a negative influence on all our other pursuits of life and so on. Then he says, finally, let our differences in opinion remain as they are. Sneha Rasa is the only medicine that can heal the injury that our differences have created. So again, it is an indirect strike at DVG for his separation from Mirza Ismail. Srinivasa Sastri possessed several characteristic traits that won people's hearts and gained him appreciation. So among the various qualities he had, scholarship, his oratory skills, generosity, profundity in thought, broad-mindedness, his ethical shrewdness, and his political stances, all these things made him a person who was unparalleled in Indian politics. DVG writes, but I personally admired his humanity, the sense of humanity, the inherent nature of compassion that he had for everybody. So this was something which really stood out in V.S. Srinivasa Sastri. This was there in him in multiple dimensions. So he did not really have any enemies. So he would think, how can I be sure that I will not commit the mistake that somebody else has? How can I judge somebody so harshly? Because tomorrow I may also have some shortcomings. I may also make a similar mistake. So therefore, we have to be careful, and there is a certain manner in which the mistake has to be corrected. So we must employ this gentle approach while correcting somebody else's mistake. So this kind of, whenever his associates and other people had made errors and blunders, he had a particular way of ensuring that, with a light, subtle humor or light-hearted joke or something, he would drive home the point without directly saying things. Of course, Srinivasa Sastri knew DVG very well, and his every other time when he used to visit him, DVG's father used to complain to Srinivasa Sastri about his obstinacy or some opportunity he would get and complain about DVG. And often Sastri would jab DVG, saying, the roots of this kind of behavior are deep within your nature, and so on. He knew DVG so well. Once when DVG was supposed to visit Delhi, immediately Srinivasa Sastri told him, look at this, my boy, you are going to Delhi. You will feel like meeting Madan Mohan Malviya. You will want to go and meet him and offer your greetings. It is very natural to have such an inclination. However, I suggest that you don't do that. Don't spend too much time, because by the time you get an appointment with Malviya, it will be 2-3 days. Then if you get caught in his company, it will be another few more days. You won't return soon. You will have very little time. Don't waste your time. So then DVG says, oh, I am sure nothing of that sort is going to happen. Then Srinivasa Sastri says, don't say that. Malviya is a revered person. I have great admiration for his character. But you will forget yourself and sit listening to him. Then DVG said, no, that will not happen. And what finally happened, he ended up spending an entire week trying to look for Malviya, finally meeting him. And exactly as Sastri predicted, he wasted a lot of his time and he was carried away with Malviya. And by the time he came back, it took much longer than it was initially planned. So Srinivasa Sastri had this gift of identifying the intentions and the nature of other people. So there are some people, even if the other person says a few words with a little bit of movement of their eyes and facial features, they'll be able to grasp what is the intention and what is the strength of the person and what is the capability of the person. This is exactly what Valmiki says in the Ramayana about Rama, that he is a Purusha Saragna. He is able to understand the real capacity of all his associates. Now, it's not always the case with us. We may not know what are the strengths and weaknesses of people around us. But a Purusha Saragna is a person who will be able to immediately identify what are the strengths of this person, what kind of task can be assigned to him or her. And Sastri was a person like that. And DVG writes beautifully that much more than his political accomplishments and his literary achievements, that the contribution of Srinivasa Sastri was that he was a learned connoisseur, and his very presence was like a flower which was spreading the fragrance all around. So just his presence itself was so valuable and so soothing. DVG then narrates a very interesting episode that happened during the Deepavali 1923. Sastri and his friends reached Mysore, and as per the directions of Mirza Ismail, the stay was arranged in the Vasantha Mahal palace. Now that was a grand scene. Now most of the people, Srinivasa Sastri or D.V. Gundappa and many of their friends, they are all from very humble backgrounds. So for them to be in this kind of a grand place was very difficult to, accept it. It was too much of aristocracy, too much of grandeur, and everything there, silver tumblers, silver plates, and it was on such a scale that it was a little bit of a shock for these people. And DVG said, "Oh, this kind of grandeur doesn't go well with me." And Shastri said, "Please keep your opinion to yourself. People like us should never bring to mind the difference that exists between the aristocracy and poverty. Whoever is inviting us, they do so with a lot of affection. They treat us with whatever they possess and in the manner that they wish to. Can you expect the kind of, from the royalty, can you expect the kind of treatment that we give our guests? We are normal people, and can we imitate the king tomorrow? Now you have come to Vasantha Mahal, and you're looking at all the grandeur. Tomorrow, can we do the same thing to our guests? We cannot do that. So there is always a difference. Everyone works and behaves in accordance with their stature in the society. We should see this as their natural expression." So then from the next day, DVG accepted it, and several people would come and meet Srinivasa Sastri, and then there would be a lot of discussions about various topics, and DVG would ask him questions, they would have a discussion. Now, Vajpayee, Venkatasubbiah and DVG, both of them, after about 3-4 days, they were getting very uncomfortable, because everything is, you can't even do anything, because the moment you say, "I want something," it is already there. "Oh, I feel like having a coffee," it is yes there. Earlier, you had to at least go and, go to some shop and buy something, walk around. So here, everything was around, and they also expected a strict discipline from the guest. See, you're not supposed to just indiscriminately throw your clothes around. You cannot walk, bare-bodied. You cannot just wear a veshti and no upper garment and walk about like you do in your house. So you had all these restrictions. You can't speak loudly. You can't shout. You can't just chat in all the places. You had to maintain certain decorum and decency in these. So these people were really fed up. After 3-4 days, Vajpayee, Venkatasubbiah and DVG said, "We should escape from this place. Let us go for a walk. Let us go outside from the palace. It is just getting to our nerves." So one day around 7:30 in the morning, they were trying to get out of the main gate. The superintendent of Vasantha Mahal, who was Subramanya Rajayaras, he was there. "Oh, what is this, sir? Where are you stepping out?" "Actually, we want to eat some masala dosa, so we are going out." So immediately he says, "Do you need to step out for such a simple thing? Should you go to the city merely for this? What would His Majesty say if he comes to know about this? No, please go back to the Mahal." By the time they have reached, already the plates are arranged, and even before they sat down, rich, hot, fantastic masala dosa are kept on the plate. And coffee was served in large cups. And how many dosas they can eat at the end? So they had dosas, and their game was, found out, and end of the story. Then what to do? To try some other trick. This masala dosa trick is not working. So then again they were trying to step out one day, and Subramanya Rajayaras caught them. "What are you doing? What is this?" "Sir, actually my chappal, the thumb section of the chappal is torn. My footwear needs to be remedied. I have to get it repaired. So there's one shop in the city I have to go." He just, so he had wrapped the slippers in a kind of a package. So he snatched that package. He said, "Go and get this repaired." He calls a servant. He says, "Sir, don't we have a cobbler here who works on the leather requirements? We have horse stables here. He repairs the reins and the coaches and everything made of leather. Do you think repairing this footwear would be a problem?" And immediately, within no time, that the thing is repaired and it's sent back. So again, this, failed. Finally, another time we should try the third time something. So then finally DVG and Vajpayee and Venkatasubbiah, they go out, and again they are caught by Subramanya Rajayaras. Now what is the story? He already has understood what's happening. What is it this time? He says, "Sir, there is too much of hair. We have to get a haircut. I have to go to the barber. So we are stepping out." "Sir, should you go to the streets for some silly thing like this? Don't we have a palace barber? He will come." So immediately both of them are sent, palace barber is sent, and they have a haircut. So in this manner, this third attempt also failed. So having failed in all the thing, DVG got very very tired and defeated. So he wrote a poem. So he says, "Apada mauli paryantam rajasevaka sevitaha gundo virajate hridya Srinivasa kripabalat." Thanks to the blessings of Srinivasa Sastri, this Gunda, that is DV Gundappa, has been pampered from foot with the footwear repair to his head, haircut by the royal servants. He has been pampered from head to foot thanks to Srinivasa Sastri. And he showed this, he wrote this poem offhand and gave it to our Venkatasubaya. Now what Venkatasubaya has done is he has secretly shown it to Subramanya Rajayaras. And Subramanya Rajayaras had a hearty laugh and handed it over to S.G. Sastri. Now S.G. Sastri took this and put it in his pocket, and he said, "I will find the right time to use this shloka. We will use it at the right time. I will play a prank." Then after some time, now this Vasantha Mahal episode is over and some months have passed, then B.K. Narayan Rao, Dr. B.K. Narayan Rao of the Minto Eye Hospital, he had organized a private concert of Vidwan Mysore Vasudevacharya in his house. Then Mysore Vasudevacharya typically sang a Varna and then a couple of Kritis, and he was singing a Alapana of the next composition. At that point of time, some DVG's friend called him out for a minute. So he went out and they were discussing about something. Apparently this was part of the plan. So by this time S.G. Sastri, what he has done, he has gone and given this piece of paper which he has preserved and told Mysore Vasudevacharya to sing it as the lines of the Kriti. So after the Alapana, again DVG comes back and Vasudevacharya is singing Apada Mauli Paryantam in the raga. And even as he is singing, because Vasudevacharya also is very thorough in Sanskrit, he is able to understand the meaning. So he is doing all the actions as if, what all happened in the Vasantha Mahal. As he is singing with the raga, he is making all the actions, the haircut and the, footwear and everything. And not only that, he added all the gamakas and embellishments and he sang Swarakalpana for that and in Kalyani Raga. And after that, he has given not just singing, a Vyakhyana also. See, I have sung this in Kalyani Raga. Kalyana indicates something which is auspicious. Kshauram tu Bhadrakaranam Mundanam Vapanam Tatha. Getting a haircut is a sacred activity and so on. He gives an elaborate description of what happened. And everybody had a hearty laugh, and DVG's and Venkatasubbaya's adventures were made known to everyone. Then there is a fairly detailed, episode of Srinivasa Sastri's visit to Sringeri. So at that time when he went to meet the Jagadguru, it was Chandrasekhar Bharati Swami was the presiding Jagadguru in Sringeri. And just before a couple of weeks before Shastri's visit to Sringeri, apparently the Jagadguru had taken some vrata. He had stopped delivering lectures, he had stopped teaching, and he was just doing some manana. He had gone into some sort of a meditative mood. And he had just told all the students to recite Gayatri Mantra and do their studies, that he won't be teaching. What is the reason for this? We will come to know in some time. When Srinivasa Sastri and his wife and his family came to Sringeri, Jagadguru said, "We are so glad that you have come. It seems like Sharada Devi herself has brought you here to get her task executed. It is something very, very important I have to discuss with you. It is a matter that concerns our dharma, and I believe that there is a attack on Sanatana Dharma, and there is a new law, I believe, that has come which is pertaining to Hindu marriages, which is being discussed in the parliament, or it's going to become a law. It is called the Sharada Bill. So what kind of Kali Yuga is this? When they are using the name of Sharada Devi and doing something totally opposed to our dharma and so on. The emperor has honored you by putting you in the Privy Council, so you must meet the viceroy and destroy this Apasmara Sura which is attacking us and so on." He gives him a big So therefore, I have stopped taking any lessons. I am not giving lectures. I have told all my students to just recite Gayatri Mantra and do their Adhyayana. I am very, very disturbed. So Srinivasa Sastri tells the Jagadguru that it is time for the puja now. We will need some time to discuss this matter. Let us bring it up a little later, another occasion. So then Jagadguru accepted, and he offered the Palamantrakshata and so on. And finally, after I think the following day or something, there was some discussion. So the following day, this topic of the wedding rituals and the Sharda bill and so on, it started in all earnest. So the Jagadguru was speaking in Sanskrit, and Srinivasa Sastri was speaking in a mixture of Tamil and Sanskrit, little bit of Tamil, little bit of Sanskrit. Then Srinivasa Sastri explained to Jagadguru what is this Sharada bill about. So he said, this Sharada bill says that the minimum marriageable age for girls should be increased. And I am also of the same opinion. A few years back, when I was a member of the Legislative Council of Madras, I had felt that this was a welcome change, and I had also drafted this. And even now, my opinion remains the same. And now that somebody in the center has put forth this same idea, how can I oppose it? Because I have always been for this idea. And not only it is my view and opinion, in my own family, there have been 3 or 4 weddings where the bride was much older than the recommended age. So it is not just that I am speaking about it, we have also been practicing that the wedding of the girls should be after the puberty, basically. So therefore, it is not right for me to oppose the Sharda bill. Then he says the bill has been named Sharda bill not with the intention of linking it with or disrespecting Sharada Devi. It was proposed by this person called Harbilas Sharada. So that is why it's called Sharada bill. It has nothing to do with Sharada Devi. And he is a very staunch Hindu. He has utmost faith in Hindu Dharma. And he is a very, very honorable and virtuous man. He has written a book in English called Hindu Superiority, in which he has presented the statements of all European scholars and who have respected and commended all the rituals and traditions and great philosophy and ideas of Sanatana Dharma. So therefore, it is initiated by a practicing devout Hindu for the improvement of the society. Then Srinivasa Sastri told the Jagadguru, now let us look at the Shastras. What do the Shastras say about getting the girls married? So when we look at all the Shastras, especially the Grihya Sutras, it becomes very clear to us that the girls were always married after the age of puberty, not at ages like 8 and 10 and 12. Finally, he says, now Grihya Sutras are something relevant to the Grihasthas, so a Yati like you would not have access to it. You will be looking at, the Moksha Shastra. Therefore, when you look at the Grihya Sutras, you will find all these things. Therefore, we are not opposed to it. Then the Jagadguru said, oh, fantastic, I will look at the, Grihya Sutras because they are the ones which are important for Grihastha Dharma. What you have said is correct. I will look at that and then we will arrive at a conclusion. Shastri was very delighted to listen to this kind of positive response from the Jagadguru, and he praised the Chandrasekhar Bharati Swamiji. He said, our hearts do not agree so easily to give up a practice that has been in vogue for so long. However, examining the function of the world today, we see that there is a need to bring about the practices, and the Jagadguru has agreed to explore this with an open mind without prejudice. This has given me a great amount of joy. This is a matter of great delight for all the devotees, and it is my good fortune that I was able to express some of these ideas to you. So this is the kind of conversation between two giants, two great intellectual people, and how when there is merit in the other person's logic, a sensible person will immediately accept and have the open mind to explore further. Srinivasa Sastri and Gandhi were very close associates. After all, they both had the same political guru, Gopalakrishna Gokhale. although they were very good friends, they knew each other well, and Srinivasa Sastri did a complete proofreading and copy editing of My Experiments with Truth of Gandhi. He had lot of disagreement with Gandhi when it came to the purpose and outcome of Satyagraha. The primary arguments of Shastri against this was that he used to tell Gandhi that our rhetoric invigorates the masses. It will only lead to mindless agitation. It is going to kindle the British government's wrath. The British are anyway cunning. Their scheming nature will work even harder to divide the people into two factions, and this will completely defeat our purpose. Then he said, the more we rebel against the current administration, people will lose the much required quality of law adherence. Adherence to law is the one which holds the state and society together. If this fundamental law-abiding nature is lost, how to re-establish this in the minds of the people? Our men might end up revolting against all rules and display disobedience in all occasions. This will completely disrupt the life of citizens and destroy peace and stability in society. Then he says, you just see how pertinent Shastri's views are. We must prepare well before we are free. Our people are ill-equipped for freedom. The kind of education that is needed for politics is something that needs to be acquired gradually. It cannot pop up in a hurry as and when we want. We must strengthen ourselves from within. The sattva that is inherently present in us should grow with the strengthening of our minds. In that manner, freedom will naturally be ours. Instead, there is no way freedom can instantaneously come and remain stable. So, this is the astute observations of Shastri, and when we look at the history of 20th century India, we see that these are so pertinent, and Gandhi's foolish policy of satyagraha at the drop of a hat ended up making an entire population completely disregard rules. Even after getting independence, the same thing continued. That's why DVG says, Shastri never deemed the screams of the streets as the divine voice. It is natural for people to get deluded and to act with a lot of agitation. It is the people's nature to act without forethought. Therefore, Shastri's view, just numbers did not matter much. It was Shastri's view that we have to examine an idea from different perspectives. It is only through this constant examination, contemplation and re-examination that the truth can be established. So this sort of astute thinking is what made V.S. Srinivasa Sastri what he was. Now we move on to the next personality, T.R. Venkatarama Sastri. As I had mentioned earlier, he was a very close associate and in fact a disciple of our P.S. Shivaswami Iyer, along with S. Varadachari, who retired after serving as a federal court judge. So Varadachari, Venkatarama Sastri both started their law practice in the offices of Shivaswami Iyer. By the time Venkatarama Sastri had passed his BA, BL exam, Shivaswami Iyer had already become a very well-known person. He's very respected for his erudition as a great scholar and as a great lawyer. So Venkatarama Sastri was very particular that he must start his journey in law under the tutelage of somebody as noteworthy as Shivaswami Iyer. So then he went to one of his relatives. He had a letter of recommendation written from Sitaram Iyer, who was a relative of Shivaswami Iyer. And Venkatarama Sastri took this letter of recommendation to Shivaswami Iyer and showed it to him. The moment Shivaswami Iyer took this and saw this, he was not at all very happy to see this letter. He said, why did Sitaram write this letter? Doesn't he know that I don't value recommendations at all? And finally he said, okay, anyway he has written it. You come next Thursday at 8 in the morning sharp, you should be there. We will have a discussion. So the next morning, on Thursday at sharp 8 o'clock, Venkatarama Sastri goes there. Shivaswami Iyer keeps a book in front of him and he says, please read this aloud. Shastri said, Sesame and Lilies. Then Iyer asked, the first word, does it have 3 syllables or 2? Is it sesame or sesame? Then Venkatarama Sastri said, well, in the dictionary it is given as 3 syllables. Ah, fine. You have the habit of referring to a dictionary. Very good. Then immediately he turns toward his clerk, Subramania Iyer, and he says, this man will come to my office tomorrow morning. Please arrange for a table, chair and everything. He's going to be here working as a junior. So independently he has examined. Of course, probably he asked some more questions, I don't know. But he has to personally test the person before taking. He won't take somebody else's recommendation. He has to check. And Venkatarama Sastri was a lexicophile, always referring to the dictionary at all times. It is very important for people like Shivaswami here, because especially for lawyers, every word they use is very, very important. If they use a wrong word in the legal document, it can be interpreted totally differently and the case may go completely against them. DVG even narrates a very interesting episode where Venkatarama Sastri arrives in Bangalore and he checks into the hotel where he is staying and immediately rushes to DVG's house. Even before he's exchanging pleasantries and everything, he says, bring your English dictionary here. So he says, what is the hurry? Please sit down. So he said, the moment I got off the train, reached my hotel, I opened my suitcase. It is my usual practice to keep the dictionary at the top. The one who has arranged my things somehow has forgotten this dictionary, but it must always be with me. Whether there is a situation for me to use it or not, it has to be with me. So therefore, I want to borrow your dictionary for as long as I am staying here. So this is the sort of importance he gave to keeping a dictionary. This is very typical of the scholars of those days, DVG writes. Whatever they spoke has to be authentic, it has to be succinct, it has to be unblemished. They did not just use words in the way their minds went. They were very careful in the way they used the words. It should not extend an inch this side, it should not extend a foot this side. It should be exactly the way it's supposed to be, to the amount it is supposed to be. So, satyata mita bhashinam, brevity for the sake of truth, so that it is very clear and it is succinct. Venkatarama Sastri was a great lawyer. DVG writes what was his uniqueness. Typically in a court, there are say 10 points put by the lawyer on one side and 15 points put by the lawyer on the other side. The judge need not consider all the 25 points. There will be 1 or 2 important points in the argument which will immediately appeal to the judge and will clinch the matter in the favor of one of the other lawyer. Venkatarama Sastri was the kind of person who would be able to immediately grasp the most important points, most decisive points in a case and present it up front. So it would become very easy for the judge to give the judgment, because he had that ability to remove all the noise and come to the core. In one of the cases, DVG writes, a client came to Venkatarama Sastri and told him the details of his case. After hearing him out, immediately he said, your case is standing on one document. If the opposition or if the judge asks you to produce that document and you can't produce it, you will lose the case. If you have the document, no court of in this country can keep you from justice. So it all depends on this one document. If you have the document, you have won the case. If you don't have the document, it is very risky. So like this, he was very clear on what was the most important aspect of the case. Not only was he a great lawyer, Venkatarama Sastri also very enthusiastic about public service. And they both, Srivaswami Iyer and Venkatarama Sastri, followed the same path in politics. It was the path of negotiation and persuasion, not the path of extreme views, or they did not follow the revolutionary path. They often used to write articles and put their point of view in the public domain, and it was very, very common for Venkatarama Sastri to write some report and publish it. So once Venkatarama Sastri wanted to publish a statement. So he was sitting in his, it is in the middle of summer, he was sitting in his house preparing the statement, and immediately after preparing the statement, he wanted to rush to Shivaswami Iyer's house to show it to him. So he was just wearing a mundu, like a small dhoti. He was not even wearing a shirt or anything. He just rushed out of the house and was walking quickly in the direction of Shivaswami Iyer's house. Then one of his friends saw him and said, Shastri, what is this? Why are you walking like this? You are hardly wearing any clothes. The sun is intense. Why? What is the thing? Oh, no, Shivaswami Iyer's house is very close by, so I'm just going there. Come, let's go by my car. No, why use the car for such a short distance? And he just started walking. Then he entered Shivaswami Iyer's house because he's not even bothered about what's happening around him. He wants to show the statement to Shivaswami Iyer. So he was sitting in the veranda of his house, and quickly he walked over the lawn and was about to approach Shivaswami Iyer. Then the first thing Shastri looked at him and said, Shivaswami Iyer looked at him and said, Shastri, did you not see the board there? And then he turned around to see the board. It was written in big and bold and colored letters. Walking on the lawn is prohibited. So then Venkatarama Sastri was like a student who was being scolded by the teacher and put his head down, and he went outside the lawn and he stood there. Sorry, I came here in a rush. So what is it? Have you written a statement? Yes, it's an important matter. I have to show you. You have to always be doing something. No, otherwise your hands will become cold. You will get, you won't be, you won't feel alive. You have to always be doing something. Okay, what is it? Show me. Once I review it, I will show it. Then he said, after you review it, I will show it to Srinivasa Sastri. Yes, of course you have to show it to Srinivasa Sastri. He is the one who will correct all the grammatical mistakes, isn't it? So this was the kind of camaraderie that they had, and the earnestness with which he was interested in public affairs. And just like Shivaswami Iyer, Venkatarama Sastri also had great curiosity for learning new things. At the age of 80, after Sastri had retired from his law practice, he started learning the Greek language, and he appointed a tutor to teach him Greek. And it was a methodical study. Then every now and then there would be discussions on the similarities and dissimilarities between Sanskrit and Greek. And wherever he got an opportunity, he would bring it up for discussions. Then DVG said, what is this, sir? You are at this age, you are studying like a student. So then Sastri would say, there is no particular time to study. One should be a student throughout one's life. Now we all say this, it's easy to say, but to actually take up something and study from scratch at the age of 80 is really noteworthy. Now, Venkatarama Sastri was a traditionalist and also an independent intellectual. He was a kind of person who always tried to get some sort of concordance between the older tradition and the modern day liberal behavior. This is in line with the Hindu society for so many years, because if you see in the history of Sanatana Dharma, there have been constant revisions and review of the traditions and constant updation made by great thinkers. So it is not a stagnant tradition. It is not like there is one book and that is followed for 2000 years. It is not like that. There has been constant changes. So we had Manusmriti, and then there is commentary on Manusmriti which have some other variations, and later whether it is Shankaracharya or other saints and savants, whether it's Vidyaranya, whether it's Ramanuja, all these people, Madhvacharya, later on, even like Vivekananda or Dayananda Saraswati, like there's so many people over a course of time, they have constantly worked for some changes, some improvement, some new interpretation, and so on. So all these things have continuously happened, and that's why it's a very dynamic society. Because if you are to apply rules which are 1970 rules also won't be applicable today. So how can we apply rules from 3rd century BC or 15th century BC or so on? So there has to be a constant upgradation of the tradition, which has always happened in the Indian culture. Similarly, Venkatarama Sastri was very particular that they hold on to the traditional values but make changes in the external features. So this does not mean we change. Now, it was important to be honest even in 15th century. It is important to be honest even now. So these values are the same across time. Whether it's the 10 lakshanas that Manu gives, the 10 lakshanas of dharma, dhriti, kshama, dhairyam and so on, all these things are going to be the same. But the external aspects of the society, the certain kinds of rituals which are done, these things will change according to society. The dress will change, the food will change, language also will undergo a change. But the expressions, the emotions will be the same. When a man is in love with a woman, that is not going to change across time. The manner in which he expresses his love may change. So like this, we see that, he is one of the stalwarts in the long line of people who had great regard for tradition, but also were trying to upgrade some of the things to suit the society around them. Venkatarama Sastri also was Advocate General, and later he was made the law minister. However, when C.P. Ramaswamy Iyer retired, he was made the law minister. What happened at that time during the distribution of the official portfolios pertaining to various government departments, the governor decided to hand over the police records, which were previously under the purview of law ministry, to a European councillor instead of Venkatarama Sastri. So he thought this was an indication of distrust and immediately resigned from his post. He said, it is impossible for a self-respecting Indian to tolerate this kind of opinion, this kind of failure of trust. And the people, said all sorts of things. You should have not been so impatient. He left it. Then he said, I am not here for the salary. I accepted this post thinking that I will get an opportunity to do something good for the country and my countrymen. So if I want to do good to my country and my countrymen, I don't need this post. Independently also I can do. Then later he also got an offer to become the judge of the High Court. He did not agree. In fact, once he told one of his relatives, would you rather have that you and your children travel in a car with a servant in the front holding a rod made of gold and silver? Or would you rather have that all your children are educated, your sisters and brothers' children are educated and their Upanayana is performed and their, getting their marriages performed without any problem? Would you want that or would you want this ostentation? That was his nature. Emphasis on erudition and friendship with people, modesty, popularity. DVG concludes by saying, on the whole, his nature would evoke an overflowing upsurge of love. This is the kind of relationship that he had with the world. Now we will next move on to Chakravarti Rajagopalachari. Now Rajaji is among the very well-known characters. Of course, DVG has often spoken about characters who are not so well known in the Jnaapaka-chitra-shaale series. But on occasion, he has written about Vishvesvaraya and Rajaji and few others who are also very well known. Even in such cases, the episodes that he narrates in these pages are not easily found elsewhere. He has captured anecdotes from the personal experiences with all these individuals. And these episodes highlight their character. C. Rajagopalachari and Navaratna Ramarao, who was, he was an administrator of the Mysore kingdom. He retired as the director of the industry and commerce. He was from the famous Navaratna family. They were very close friends, Rajaji and Navaratna Rajaram. I think they studied together in Bangalore in their college days, and their friendship continued all through their life. And when Navaratna Rajaram passed away in 1960, the news reached Rajaji by telegram. He had been touring the Kerala region at that time. He cut short his trip and rushed to Bangalore by car. And by the time he came to Bangalore, the cremation was already completed. And he went to Navaratna Rajaram's house and he said, it's already very dark now. Now, I request somebody to accompany me tomorrow morning to the crematorium and show me the spot where he was burnt. And the next morning at 5 o'clock, he came to Navaratna Ramram's house, and his brother Krishnaswamy took Rajaji to the crematorium, and there he went to the funeral pyre. He performed a pradakshina and did a namaskara, and on the way back he bought new clothes for all the children, Ramarao's daughters, suggesting that they wear it on the Shubhasvikara day. And after some time he played a major role in getting the girl married also. Now this amicability without craftiness, this was the nature of Rajaji's friendship, because they were both students in Bangalore Central College, and they had a lot of common interests, and they sustained a friendship. DVG writes, it is not that Rajagopalachari lacked the intention to be tactful. There was no deception in him, but there was strategy. Now, if there was a public meeting, Rajaji would be very, very careful. The organizers would have already taken Rajaji's suggestions beforehand. He would have identified who are the speakers who should speak in what order, what are the topics that they should cover. Then he will look through all the people who must be invited for this meeting. Then he will allow the people to speak. Finally, after everybody has spoken, he will make down some points, and he will give a complete overview of what need to be said, and so on. And if there are any questions, he would answer them. So he was very careful in managing these kind of things. So this is a kind of strategy. It is not deception or cunning. It is what we can call as a tact, a Chanakyan way of approach. And DVG also invokes one of the verses about Chanakya in the Nataka Mudra Rakshasa. Sometimes it's clearly understood, while at other times it is too profound to grasp. This is the nature of Chanakya. At times it's complete with all its parts, while at other times it's extremely subtle depending on the work to be accomplished. Now the seed is destroyed, and now the fruits are aplenty. Oh, how strange are the precepts and path of a statesman. It is just like Vidhi. The way in which great statesman thinks and acts, it is almost as if fate is acting, because we can never tell how fate will act. It is always unpredictable. Similarly, a statesman will behave in a manner that is very, very difficult for us to predict. So achieving a higher goal was his aim. The strategy was planned based on the time and the circumstances. Therefore, only a person who is in power, who is a ruler, can understand the mind of another ruler. It is very difficult for a common person to understand the mind of the people in power and statesmen. Here I would like to mention that the standards and the path we take at the personal level is very different from what we take at the level of family and what we take at the level of society. Now, when it comes to a personal choice, we can be very simple, we can be very believing, we can be very kind as an individual. But the same standards cannot be applied when we are running a family. Now, as an individual, I may say I am very happy with just one kaupina. I don't need anything else. I am very happy with one meal a day. I don't want any fancy thing. I am very happy with some simple sattvic food. But can I impose the same thing on my wife, on my mother, on my father, on my children? No. As a family man, as a member of a family, we have to think little differently. We cannot think like how we think in a personal level. Similarly, when we are a leader of a community or heading a group of people, we have to think totally differently. We have to keep in mind the interest of so many people. At a personal level, I can say I will be 100% honest. Any question you ask me, I will reply honestly. I don't have anything to hide, I can say. But can a minister say that? He has to keep secrets, he has to keep state secrets, he has to use deception, he has to use cunning to fight against the enemy kingdoms. How can the minister or a king be saying, I am very honest, you ask me anything, I will tell you where we have all the strategic points, where our weapons are stored, where is the treasury, I will tell you. Then it is just disaster. At a personal level, we can have high level of integrity. But as a statesman, as a politician, as a ruler, we cannot have that level of, our integrity is different. We have to adhere to a different kind of dharma. Therefore, when it comes to a personal life of a person, when it comes to an individual, we can find solutions to a problem. If we have a problem at a personal level, we can find a solution. But at a societal level, there are no solutions. There are only trade-offs. If I support some farmer bill, it is going to affect some other community. If I support some other community, this one third group will get affected. So how to create a situation where it affects the least number of people in a negative way and most number of people in a positive way? This is how a statesman or a king or a ruler, politician should think. So therefore, this contrast is brought out very well in the personalities such as Rajaji, V.S. Srinivasa Sastri and all that. As far as their personal life is concerned, they are very sincere, very honest, conscientious. But as statesmen, they have to be very tactful and strategic. They cannot be naive, because if they are naive, they will be taken for a ride. It will be disastrous for the people that they are leading. And DVG writes, he was a person of great intellect, very, very sharp, and would understand things very quickly. In a beautiful manner, as very typical to DVG, he writes a list of things, all the contributions of Srinivasa Rajagopalachari, and how he has succeeded or not succeeded in each of these major things he took up. So he gives a list: prohibition of alcohol, khadi, upliftment of Harijans, the socially backward, propagation of Hindi, attainment of self-rule, fiscal prudence in expenses of state, administrative efficiency, clean administration, dharma sampradaya, and literary work, his contribution to Tamil literature. Then when it comes to prohibition of alcohol, he said it is worth remembering the efforts that Rajaji expended on the prohibition of alcohol. The chief ministers of Madras who succeeded, who came after him, have been negligent, and the prohibition arrangement itself has been disbanded. As for khadi, he propagated khadi and himself spun the yarn, and he supported the khadi workers. Even then, he says, there is no guarantee that handloom workers are using hand-spun yarn for cloth making. It does not seem that the handloom folk have made much use of this opportunity. So, although he was working very hard for the propagation, nothing much came out of this. Similarly, when it comes to upliftment of Harijans, he writes, the efforts of Rajaji helped the Harijans gain entry into the Tiruvanantashayana temple and other places. However, no one has witnessed the extent to which the temple entry facility is being used by Harijans. They do not seem to be much enthusiastic about the matter. Whereas in the matter of government jobs, it is happening. In fact, it is happening a lot. And DVG says, what has been the impact of this on the community? What has been its effect on general public administration? These are topics worth stick about this. He says we have to be, Rajaji's aim also was freedom of India. How much he contributed for that, it is very difficult to say. When it comes to fiscal prudence in the means of spending the money in the state, Rajaji's objective has not been achieved. Fiscal prudence has not come about. So, he was not very efficient with this. In what Rajaji's intention was that fiscal prudence should come about, but it did not result in that. Similarly, administrative efficiency and transparency, although he tried hard for it, it has not been the result. The result has been that you have this permit license, Raj is the result, nothing has happened. From the very beginning, Rajagopalachari was devoted to dharma. And even more so in his later years, he paid lot of attention to dharma, and that is something which is very noteworthy. Finally, DVG says that the literary work of Rajagopalachari is very important because his first love was literature. Always he was very fond of literature and he would discuss a great deal about it. He knew a lot of, he had widely read Tamil literature and English literature, and his scholarly achievements are far more than his accomplishments in politics. And he says his scholarly achievements will outlast his political achievements. Not only did he write the famous works on condensed version of Ramayana and Mahabharata, which he wrote as Chakravarti Tirumagan, the noble son of the emperor, which is the Ramayana, and Vyasara Virind, the literary feast of Vyasa, was the book he wrote on, which is a condensed rendition of Mahabharata. Later this came into English and it became very, very popular. But originally he wrote in Tamil. Similarly, he has written about various subjects like physics and botany and all that in Tamil. And DVG says people who know the subjects well have told me that the Tamil booklet which he has written on botany is very, very authoritative. He also has written about Thiruvalluvar, and he many times used to quote all the Divya Prabandham and the writings of poetess Avvaiyar and Kural and so on. He has also written about some of the Greek philosophers like Socrates and Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus and others. So like this, the contribution to Tamil literature, especially by Rajagopalachari, is very, very noteworthy. Finally, as a statesman, DVG writes, there is a class among politicians called statesmen, which can be roughly equated to the Sanskrit term Vichakshana, who is the best of the best, the most important, the chief or the leader of one who rules. And many qualities come together in a statesman, like Rajaji. Primary among them are wisdom and fortitude, he says. And especially wisdom, he says there are three types. The wisdom of discrimination between the spiritual and the material, the wisdom to be practical and realize what can be achieved, what cannot be achieved, and the wisdom to prioritize and know what to do first and what to do next. So this sort of wisdom is very, very important in a statesman. And the statesman should be very committed to the action after having deliberated on something carefully. He must be very committed. Let any obstacle come, I will focus and work towards the goal. This sort of determination and resolve is necessary, and DVG says that Rajaji was definitely a person of that caliber. Now we come to the great grand old man of Mysore, M. Venkatakrishnaiah. I hope I will be able to complete this episode today, then I can continue with the 6th volume later in August. We can see the mentality of DVG when we read the very first paragraph of this episode. So the name of this episode in the Kannada version is Pankti Pavanaru Venkatakrishnaiah, first among equals. So Venkatakrishnaiah was almost a very important mentor to DVG, and when he starts the essay, he says, and I will just read this out because it gives you a glimpse into DVG's mindset. He writes, while referring to Sri M. Venkatakrishnaiah, we must first respectfully acknowledge the contribution of his disciples who served him with utmost dedication. That highly devoted group of students extended much needed assistance with great responsibility in the matters of his food, his health and his public programs. In my opinion, it would not be possible for Venkatakrishnaiah to have led such an able and long life without the devoted resourcefulness of those disciples. I don't know where they came from and what their whereabouts are today, but they recognized greatness and offered service. Salutations to them. So he begins this episode by first remembering all those students of Venkatakrishnaiah who took care of his needs. Now he had a lot of students and they would take dictation from him. They would help him in purchasing whatever required for the house. Anything and everything, he had a bunch of students who take care completely. Whether any medication he has to take, his health-related things, his clothing, organizing his public programs, organizing lectures, everything was taken care of by his disciples. So because of their support and service, it was possible for him to do all that he did. So first DVG remembers all those people, and many times after a great person goes away, we don't know what happens to their associates and their people who work with them. When they are in power, when they are alive, when they are active in public life, then all their secretary and their chef and their barber and their driver, they are all very important to us. But the moment that person goes out of power or is no more, nobody knows where all those support system goes. They go into their own ways. Nobody knows. Nobody can keep tab. But they are so important for the functioning of the individual. And DVG recognizes this and first offers salutations to them before going to Venkatakrishnaiah. Then he says first time he met Venkatakrishnaiah was in the year 1902, and he was studying in the 4th form. DVG was in the 9th standard in the Maharaja's college in Mysore, and he heard him give a lecture. And later on, when he came to meet Venkatakrishnaiah, he used to stay in a house called Padmalaya, which was just opposite Kumara Bhavana, where Sheshadri Iyer used to stay. Then in a very short paragraph, DVG describes the physical appearance of Venkatakrishnaiah. It was very pleasing to the eye. He was tall, proportionately built, a dull white complexion, a pleasant and serious face, neither too long nor too round, yet it appeared somewhat round in a couple of places, shining eyes. In my opinion, he would have been counted as handsome in his youth. So in one small paragraph, he gives us a picture of how Venkatakrishnaiah looked. Just like Srinivasa Sastri, Venkatakrishnaiah also was a very, very good orator, very well known, and also a mitabhashi, one who did not speak much. He mostly listened to other people. He was interested to know what other people are saying rather than listening to his own voice. And he never used harsh language. Even during friendly discussions, he would never raise his voice. His tone will be very mild but very grave and serious. And he never lost his temper easily. So even if he lost his temper, more than any harsh words, it would be through his eyes and facial expressions rather than his words. It was not his way to scream and shout and scold. And it was also not his way to disappoint anyone. Now this is a very big problem when you have a lot of friends. So he had lot of friends. Every time he came to Bengaluru, all his friends will invite him to their house and they will say, you must eat something. So he would stay in his friend Lakshmi Naranappa's house. Lakshmi Naranappa was a munsif in Nanjangud and also a relative of D.V. Gundappa. So he used to stay in Lakshmi Naranappa's house, and you have to eat breakfast here. How can you miss breakfast? Then he will go to Shamara's house. Shamara will say, no, you have to have something, at least little bit. So then he will visit to Shamarao's house, some coffee. Then he'll go to H.V. Nanjundaya's house. They will say, no, you have to have lunch. He will say, Lakshmi Naranappa will be waiting. No, just to taste the food, little bit, so much wonderful food. Just you taste little bit. So he will have to eat all that. He didn't like to disappoint anybody, so he used to eat. And finally, he would return to Lakshmi Naranappa's house and administer enema. Then finally, he will go to lunch. So this is how he used to not disappoint anybody, and he used to advise this enema treatment to other people also, including DVG. DVG narrates a very poignant episode. In 1902, his sister was widowed at the age of 10. Those days it was not uncommon to have child widows. So they would be married at a young age, and if the husband dies, then they would be widowed, and it was not so easy to get remarried. So when Venkatakrishnaiah, that was the time that he came to know DVG, just that would be the time when he has probably encountered DVG, does not even know. And Venkatakrishnaiah is far senior to D.V. Gundappa. He's met this boy and he seems like a bright boy, that's all. when this matter reached his ears, he wrote a letter to DVG. And you should just think about it. DVG was probably a 15, 16-year-old boy at that time, right? So 16-year-old boy, he writes a letter. Please bring that child, this widowed girl, to my place. I will take care of her at my house. I will arrange for her education. She should not be discouraged. She should be in a lively environment. Please bring her here in person. DVG writes, however, my parents were traditionalists. They adhere to the old customs. So Venkatakrishnaiah's suggestions was not accepted. But however, it demonstrates his magnanimity. He used to have support a lot of people like this. I mentioned to you that Padmalaya, which was the house, the villa which Venkatakrishnaiah lived, was facing Kumara Bhavana, which was the house of Seshadri Iyer. And they were in opposite parties. If you remember, in the 4th volume, there was the Madras party and the Mysore party. One of the main persons in the Madras party was Seshadri Iyer. And one of the main persons in the Mysore party was Venkatakrishnaiah. When Seshadri Iyer was the Diwan, foreign nationals would visit Seshadri Iyer very often. And whenever they discuss some issues and they would ask him, what are the places to visit in the city, right? Anybody comes from a different country, different state. The first thing they'll ask is, what are the places to visit? At that point of time, Seshadri Iyer would say, the gentleman who lives in the house facing mine is my political opponent. You should visit him. He has read the complete works of the philosopher Herbert Spencer. He is an authority on Spencer's work. He is a very honest and a rational person. So you should visit him. He is a political opponent, but that is the respect Seshadri Iyer had. Of course, Seshadri Iyer and Venkatakrishnaiah had a lot of fights, and they had a very strained relationship because, as I had discussed earlier, when the Maharaja Chamarajendra Wadiyar the 10th died suddenly in 1894, there was a little bit of a intrigue, palace tiff. Now, one part of it was supporting Seshadri Iyer to become the regent, whereas the other group was saying that Maharani Kempananjamani Vanivilasa Sannidhanam should become the regent, and that group was Venkatakrishnaiah. And Venkatakrishnaiah had a newspaper, so he would write powerful articles criticizing Seshadri Iyer, and many times Seshadri Iyer and he would have public, face-to-face debates and fights in the legislative assembly and so on. Because Seshadri Iyer was a person who wanted to get things done. He didn't want this democratic process. He just wanted to have the results. Whereas Venkatakrishnaiah was a disciple of Rangacharlu. He wanted all the thing to happen in a democratic and due process. But Seshadri Iyer also was a remarkable individual. So he did not allow this political animosity to come in the way of personal friendship. He had great regard for Venkatakrishnaiah, and Seshadri Iyer's children were students of Venkatakrishnaiah. And when K.S. Krishna Iyer, Seshadri Iyer's son, served as the deputy commissioner at one point, whenever Venkatakrishnaiah would write any recommendation, it would be accepted. So they had so much regard for Venkatakrishnaiah, although they were politically opponents. Venkatakrishnaiah also was a good scholar. He had a good style of writing in English and Kannada. He was knowledgeable in Sanskrit. There are two works, small works in Kannada that he wrote, which often Lakshmi Narayanappa used to make fun of. One was called the Dhanarjanaya Krama, the way to earn money, and Chora Grahana Tantra, the technique of catching theft. And every time Lakshmi Narayanappa would say, you have written all these books, but both these departments, you are an utter failure. Because, he said, the people who know the formula for earning money, they will definitely not enter the newspaper business. So, you were forced to sell Padmalaya because of your great financial abilities. So, I don't know who will want to learn how to money by reading your book, how to earn the thing. Then, regarding the theft and apprehending it, the money orders you receive as part of the donation, you sign the coupon, but have you ever counted the money? it was an open secret that there are a lot of people in Venkatakrishnaiah's press who were all thieves. So there will be a lot of contributions that would come in the form of money orders. And this money, whoever was there that day, whoever could lay their hands on it, they would just pocket that money and go away. And Venkatakrishnaiah would not even know. And if at all somebody was caught cheating, then Venkatakrishnaiah would just say something like Punyatma, Mahaniya, or some general word like that and leave him. Because he was so kind to people. He never bothered about these kind of things. But Lakshmi Narayanappa was in fact cut up with him for this kind of behavior. So what he would do whenever he stayed in Bangalore and Venkatakrishnaiah was going back to Mysore, all that money would be tied in a small knot and he would make a note of how much money is there and keep it safely. And he would always say, careful, careful with the money. But the train would start and it would stop in some Bidadi or it will stop in some Channapatna station. Somebody will come and say, sir, this fantastic banana you must buy. How much is this? Sir, it is only 3 rupees, please buy it. Okay, 3 rupees. Then some next station there will be some bhaji or bonda something. Okay, we will buy this and so on. Then Channapatna is famous for the dolls, so he will buy some dolls. Finally, once when Lakshmi Narayanappa asked him, what is this, who are you buying these dolls for? Are there any kids in your house? Then he points to DVG. Oh, it is for his kids, and he gave it. Similarly, on another occasion, he bought a lot of kara, bundi and laddu and sweets and everything. And Lakshmi Narayanappa is, who is going to eat all these things? This is not at all healthy. So again, he gave it to DVG and said, let this child eat it, no problem. So in this manner, all the money, whatever would be there, would get completely spent by the time they reach Mysore. It is not surprising that his house was like a dharma chatra. So at any given point of time, there will be friends, there will be acquaintances, there will be relatives, some students, general public would be there, lawyers, government officers, anybody and everybody would come. And it was very difficult to know what is the intention of these people. Some of them would be basically fraudsters disguised as friends. They all would come and sit there at 6:45 in the evening, and slowly by 7:30, more and more people will come. They'll all discuss and say, oh, look at that injustice which is happening there, sir. There is nobody to hear our voices. Oh, we should do some Desha Seva and that and this. Finally, everybody who is there would be given some uppittu and coffee and all these things. After everybody finishing the uppit and coffee and everything, slowly it will become empty. So this is the manner in which they were serving the motherland. But Venkatakrishnaiah would never speak low about them. He will never complain about people. He forgave everybody. He respected everybody. DVG says, I have come up with 3 reasons for his behavior. He was a courteous character. By nature, he was very soft. Second, people in the public domain should not have any adversaries. No one knows when who may be useful. Third, each and everyone should get a chance for self-correction. If one is scolded and shouted at, then he will become angry, and the attitude of the correction will be driven out by anger. So they have to realize by themselves what the mistake is. Now, if this already, I think in the 20th century, it was not a great strategy. If somebody is there like that today, he will be completely swallowed. Now, DVG says he was always very humble. At the same time, he was very confident. Therefore, people used to give him names like Daya Sagara and Bhishmacharya and so on. DVG says, yes, these are all very good epithets, but I would call him a storehouse of liquid jaggery. He was exploited by many in many ways. This is what he says. One of the friends of Venkatakrishnaiah, Srinivasa Rao, used to affectionately tease him by saying, if some troublemakers made an association called Mysore Dacoits Club and they asked Venkatakrishnaiah to be president, he would also agree to that, because he did not want to disappoint anybody. If they did something like that, he would still agree, because he was a president for, Theosophical Society. He was the president of Arya Samaj, Samaja Sudharane Samsangha, the Vitantu Samrakshane, the welfare of widows Sangha, the Go Samrakshane, welfare of cattle. In all the causes, whatever was there was some group, and in many of them, Venkatakrishnaiah was the president. So like this, everywhere he would just agree because he didn't want to make somebody go empty-handed. He didn't want people to feel bad. So during 1915, 1916 in the Legislative Council of Mysore, there was a bill related to Mysore University that was being discussed. So A.R. Banerjee, who was a member of the council, at some point he also became the Diwan of Mysore. So he presented the bill. Then he said, after presenting the bill, there have been several requests related to this bill from the city of Mysore. And what are the requests? One is from Mr. M. Venkatakrishnaiah, the President of Literary Union. He has written these things. Then Mr. M. Venkatakrishnaiah, Municipal Council member, has written these things. Mr. Venkatakrishnaiah, President of the Teachers Association, has written these things. M. Venkatakrishnaiah from Pandit Mandali has written these things. M. Venkatakrishnaiah, President of Mahajana Sabha, has said this. And like this, some 10 or 7 or 8 organizations are there, and these different opinions are there. And then Banerjee says, in this assembly I see only one Venkatakrishnaiah. I am eagerly waiting to see what he says, because all these 8 diverse opinions are given by the same persons. Then Venkatakrishnaiah had a hearty laugh and he said, sir, I belong to many organizations, so each of them have put the recommendation, whatever is suitable for them, so I am representing them. So therefore here I will speak on my personal capacity as an individual, not on behalf of any of the organization. This will show you the all-round, nature and the holistic approach of our Venkatakrishnaiah. I will take just a few minutes and tell you one episode from his life. He lost his son in an accident. His second son, Narayan Rao, was an Amaldar, and he met with an accident while he was riding in his cycle. He died, but he crashed into a cart. A Jatka Gadi came and crashed into him, and he died on the spot, unfortunately. And then Venkatakrishnaiah came to know the news, and he had a young son. The Venkatakrishnaiah had a grandson who was very young, and he called his grandson Subbarao and he told him, my child, your father has met this untimely death. From now you can stay in one of 2 places. One is my house in Mysore. Another is the house of your mother's father, Dr. C.B. Ramarao. You can stay wherever you like. If you choose to stay in Mysore, there will be nobody to take care of you. You will be just one of many children here. You will not get any special treatment or anything. But I will be very, very happy if you are going to be staying with me. However, if you choose to go to Bangalore, your grandparents will take care of you. Dr. Ramarao is a very well-known doctor, and he has all the comforts. He can take care of your higher education and future. So you take a call what is suitable to you. But if you stay with me, I will be very happy. You are definitely not a burden on me, but you should think about your future. So this was the nature of Venkatakrishnaiah. You just imagine this happening in the previous generation. Not only he lost his son, he also lost his daughter and son-in-law in the outbreak of plague. And during one of the days, just before the body was going to be taken to the crematorium, Venkatakrishnaiah said, "Oh, I have not prepared today's article. Please get a paper and pen." Every day he would write an article for his newspaper. He had forgotten to write that article today, so he said, "Please give that." And only after finishing the article, he went to the crematorium. That was the level of commitment. It is remarkable to see the lives of all these people and look at the manner in which they handled crisis, how they dealt with people, and how they were able to find solace and peace amidst all the chaos, all the confusion. And it is really, really inspiring. I hope you get a chance to read some of these volumes and revisit them. I was hoping to finish this volume, but I could only complete a few of these characters. I'll resume this during my presentation in August. Thank you for a very, very patient hearing. Namaste.